in the intro. Um, yeah, so uh, you guys, I'm talking to Ping about everything that's going on in my house. Um, the AC was fixed for like 12 hours and it went out again today. And I am at the point, I'm so sleep deprived that I am sleepwalking and talking in my sleep. And I have a secret dog named Cookie Monster that lives upstairs. It does not exist. But I like to talk about him all night long. So my husband had to go sleep on the couch last night. So it's super fun.
Aimee, we need a banner across the screen that says "Do not call 911."
I know.
The host is fine.
I know, right? I don't know if I am.
Okay, not fine. Fine's the wrong word.
Well, no, because when we started this stream and we both have to click our cameras on. This is what Ping saw. Hold on,
And I came from like a dead screen to this, and I'm like, why is there a fox on my screen?
oh my gosh, I'm looking at the wrong page, and I'm like, why do people keep posting? It says, "Welcome to our first episode. Information on missing Kaylee Jones.
Our
Kylie
first
Rodgers."
episode,
Yeah, I'm not in the comments. I'm on the banners page.
we are pretty noobish. It could be our first episode.
It could. And every day is a new day around here. Um, I guess we could talk a minute or two. There's actually it'll take more than that, but in the Devin Clark Lyric Woods case, the 14 and the 8-year-old that were found out along the electrical lines in North Carolina. There's some really strange stuff going on. Have you read it yet, Ping?
I haven't. Since we've last been on, I've literally been at like every house inspection in the local area for like 2 days. Um, I haven't. So let's have a look.
Okay. So here's what's going on. They've identified a suspect, a 17-year-old. Okay. And normally, we've read articles to you before. I'm not going to lie about that. I don't particularly like doing that, but I am going to do it right now because I want to use their wording so that you guys understand what I'm talking about when we're done, or what we discuss when we're done. So, Orange County, North Carolina, more than 24 hours after investigators said they know who killed two high school students, the suspect remains at large. The Orange County Sheriff's Office said Wednesday that there's nothing new to report on the search for the 17-year-old, who investigators have charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Lyric Woods, 14, and Devin Clark, 18. Investigators have not released the suspect's name, citing the fact that the suspect is a juvenile and by North Carolina law has not yet been formally charged in the adult judicial system. Orange County's acting district attorney and the attorney who will be trying the case said a decision has not been made on whether to try the suspect as an adult. That call won't be made until an arrest is made. Woods' grandfather, who previously offered a $10,000 reward in the case, was back at the scene of the crime Wednesday. He was putting up solar lights around a cross he made to honor his granddaughter. He said the family is still struggling to cope with the loss. Clark's mother told our sister station ABC 11 that her family is happy the investigators have a suspect. Both families are planning separate events to honor the teens, and it goes on to that. So that's the update. So I'm sure this makes sense in another realm, but we know who killed. So from the sheriff's office, we know who killed her, and we know who killed Devin and Lyric. We know he's 17, but we don't have him in custody. We're still trying to apprehend him, and we're not going to tell you guys because he's an adult, or he's a juvenile, chronologically. So do we have a 17-year-old murderer running around and nobody knows who it is?
Double murderer. Like it's not a single murderer. Double murderer.
I mean, this is how there's a lot of articles. This is how all of them are written. It says, we're still trying to locate. They've already filed murder charges.
You'd think
They
that would
just
be enough.
they don't have him in custody. Um, no, it's one person, I believe, Emily.
It's one. It's not. They're not looking for two people. They're looking for one dude. I
Looking
think one
for
guy.
one 17-year-old. Oh, I like your Hook'em Horns avatar. That's cute. I'm from Texas, so um,
What's the naughty one for that? When they play the football and they play like their rival, and their rival always does it like upside down, and like that's like some sort of big insult. It's like, ooh, they did the
yes.
hand thing upside down. Ooh.
Ooh, University of Texas and Texas A&M. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm still trying to. I'm sorry that I just sat there and created dead air, which is not productive. Um, I don't understand. So let's think this out. Why can't they locate this kid? Is it because the kid is lawyered up and they're waiting for him to turn himself in? Is it something like? Do you think it's something like a surrender situation?
Nah, I think he's gone on the run. I think he bolted as soon as he did the crime.
Okay, so if you're 17, you can bolt, and we just don't tell the public.
Because like, what resources would he really have at 17? Not a lot. He's not an adult yet. He can't rent. He can't get a car. He can't, rent a property. Well, I guess he could Airbnb. Um, it makes it more difficult if you're on the run. He's probably got someone protecting him.
Like a
At that
parent
age,
or another friend or
family, friends,
family.
even interstate. They may have sent him interstate to get away from it.
It's mind-boggling though, because it's like we literally have somebody running around that has just killed two people, and I don't think they know enough about this person. I mean, and I think that's a fair statement. They don't know enough about this person to say that they wouldn't kill somebody else in the meantime. So they're not going to tell us what he looks like, or, like, don't get me wrong. There's a nosy part of me that wants to know who this person is, of course. Like, I want to know motive. I want to know what happened. Like, why are these two kids dead? Why were they out in the middle of the night? He was obviously the person driving the car, or not obviously, but I would say, like,
Like, how else did they get there?
yeah, Devin didn't have a car. Someone picked them up. Lyric wasn't driving. She was 14. I mean, not that a 14-year-old can't drive if they want to. I mean, they'll do it illegally, but she wasn't driving. So the odds are this third person that's running around is the driver of the car, and at some point had possession of a vehicle. So, I mean, yeah, I want to know all these things. I'm being selfish, and I want to know who it is. On the other hand, if there's somebody running around who is desperate because they're trying to avoid being put in custody, um, I don't think Lyric and Devin were trying to put them in custody, and they ended up dead. So now he's really backed up against a wall, and you're not going to tell us who it is or what he looks like or where he may be.
I find it interesting that they haven't located a burnt out vehicle yet. I think that's really telling that he's probably still traveling in the same vehicle and maybe they're trying to track it. Because if you were smart, you would torch the shit out of that vehicle like
Mm-hmm.
instantly. If
Oh
you're
yeah,
still got that vehicle, it's evidence. As soon as they get it, they got a crime scene that thing.
yeah. You douse it with gasoline, bleach, you light it on fire, and you push it off a bridge.
Just get rid of it. Like the more longer time you're in that car, the higher the chances of you, you know. Well, we're not giving giving tips here or anything, but it just seems obvious.
Yeah. Well, and additionally, he's got a firearm.
At 17, is that legal in that
No,
state?
no, mm-mm. No. There's no. Uh, there's nowhere in my mind that, okay, so I understand that, I think they call it like an age up or something like that policy that they have. So in cases like this that are severely violent, they'll take a 16 or 17-year-old, they'll do an arraignment in court, and then they will say, based on the crime, we're going to charge you as an adult.
Yeah, he
Yes,
has to present first, I think, before they
he
can work.
does. He does. That's procedural. So all of that I understand and I get it. I get it. And the DA hasn't said, we're going to charge as an adult. They haven't said that yet either. Um, Chances are they will. But um, this person is just running around loose. I mean, I don't want to be like overly dramatic, but I think, and I was surprised I didn't see anything about this because I even looked in the Facebook groups and stuff like that. If I was a child in that high school, or if I had a kid in either one of those high schools or in that area, because they went to two separate high schools, um, I would be concerned. There's someone
Yeah,
running
I
around.
would too.
I mean, I would be very concerned.
But Aimee, someone from either their school, his school, or another school in the around that area, someone didn't turn up Monday morning. So
Yeah,
I'm betting locally, at least like really hyper locally, people have a fair idea of who it is. I bet you they do.
I agree. Miss Peaches is asking if we can do the backstory on this, and I apologize.
Uh-huh.
We just kind of turned on our cameras tonight, so give me 1 second, and I'm going to pull something up, and we can do that. Absolutely. Okay, so up on the screen, this is Devin Clark. He's 18, football player, wide receiver. This is Lyric Woods, 14. They go to two separate high schools, but they're friends. Lyric was staying with her mother last Friday night with her mom and her stepfather. At some point in the evening, the last time that they really had eyes on her was somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock at night when she went to take a shower. And you know how the house settles down and everyone goes to bed? Well, a witness saw Lyric out around the back of the house about 3 in the morning and get into a car. Lyric is 14, so apparently she snuck out of the house. She got into that car with Devin, and Devin doesn't own a car, so there was a third person, a third driver. Lyric is reported or discovered missing on Saturday morning. Devin's report on being missing is Sunday. He is reported missing on Sunday. And the reason his is a little bit more delayed is because one of his age and his independence. And he was really into sports and he had practices, and there's other adults in the household, so it's not uncommon for him to get up early and go to a practice and not be there when other people get up. So it wasn't until it was like, well, wait, we haven't seen, so and so, and they start checking around and he hasn't been here and he hasn't been there. And it creates a sense of urgency. But his is reported a little later, mostly because of his age and his ability to function independently and, have some autonomy over his life. Not that a 14-year-old doesn't, but she's a freshman, he's a senior, all that stuff. So they put out missing persons reports for both of these kids, and I'm going to use the word kids. They keep saying that Devin is an adult and she's a child, and I understand that he's considered in the eyes of the law an adult because he's 18, but he's still in high school, guys. So I feel like, and Ping and I talked about this the other night, that he gets treated a little bit differently. And he's not an 18-year-old out living in an apartment or playing in a band or something like that. He's an 18-year-old playing on his high school football team. So to me, he's a child.
Yeah, they definitely, especially over that first weekend,
Mm-hmm.
the media and the way it framed a lot of the stuff was very heavily pushed into Lyric's corner. And even the mom said, like, we weren't getting any information for like days because they knew Lyric had been found, that they knew another body had been found, but they had no idea it was their son. Like, I mean, they knew in their deepest heart, they knew it was him, but they
Right.
had no confirmation. They had no one call them to come up to the county to have a look or anything. Like, it was a little bit more delayed on their side, and I think me and Aimee both noticed that through the reporting on that weekend. It was a little weird.
It was. It was like they had because of his age, they had a different set of rights. Where Lyric has, she is she's literally a child, and she's custodial. Like, she's got parents and guardians and all kinds of stuff. They have access to everything about her because chronologically he's 18. His parents weren't afforded the same rights.
17.
No, he's 18.
Wait, Devin Clark. It says here on my page. Oh no, wait. No, sorry. Yeah, 14 and 18. What am I talking about?
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I get that. But when you have someone involved in a crime like that, do you frame it as their ages, or do you frame it as they're involved in the same incident? And I always thought you would frame it as they're in the same incident together, not, oh, we're going to separate this completely because they're different ages. Like, I don't know. That's just how I think anyway.
No, I 100% agree with you. And again, when they're high school students, they're kids. They're kids. He doesn't get to go into that high school. Well, we're not going to get into that conversation. I was going to say he doesn't get to go into that high school and say, well, I don't have to do that because I'm legally an adult. I mean, there are some things that you could exercise. It's not going to get you very far with anybody. You're going to get out of that school real quick. But, he's a kid. He's playing on his high school football team. He doesn't drive a car. He doesn't, or he doesn't have a car. He doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, he's a kid.
Is it uncommon there to be 18 in your final year?
Yes.
That's interesting. In Australia, it's actually pretty normal. And because of the way we do our birthdays here, when you start school, like, when you're 5 or whatever, some kids, as long as your birthday is before July, you can go the year before. If your birthday is after July, you have to start school the following year. So you have kids who are the same age, but when they get to, say, the final year, some of them will be 17 and some of them will be 18.
Yeah, we have the same thing. I believe that. Well, I don't know what the cutoff is now. It used to be sometime in August, I believe.
Yeah, because your school years are flipped compared to ours.
So you have to be 5 by this date, and then you can start or whatever. And so yeah, like my birthday's in April, so right before I graduated, literally like 2 weeks before I graduated, I turned 18. I had some friends that had been 18 since September, and I had other friends that would not turn 18 until July or August.
Yeah, seems pretty, like, we had the same mix as well. So some kids could buy alcohol and go to the pub at lunch, and some couldn't.
Right. Well, we don't have that because the drinking age is 21 here.
Right.
But yeah, and that's probably one of the motivations for changing it. Yeah. So I think that's the same thing. Mine is like April 30th. So yeah, I turned 18 like basically a couple weeks before graduation. Yeah, I think it is August. I know at one point they bumped it up to like September, but then they had so many like it's hard with little kids and ages because one person's 4 is different than another person's 4. You can have very advanced 4-year-olds, and I don't necessarily mean like intellectually. I just mean like with their social skills, with their bathroom habits, with eating, like those little independent or semi-independent activities. And then you have the difference between boys and girls too, because it is documented that girls will mature in those areas like a little bit faster than little boys. And
little boys are definitely a bit more clingy with mum when they're a little younger, at least from my experience too.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're already dealing with trying to figure things out or whatever, but I think they've decided that, you're just going to be an older 5-year-old, and that's it. Like you're going to be that's going to give you the advantage the next year and what have you. And it seems to work. Emotionally,
interesting.
Is important. Yes, I agree. This is a whole nother conversation, but they do like not preschool, But do they do pre-K in Australia?
Yeah, so when your child is really young, during the day, you might go to something like some sort of creche or something like that. And
Hmm.
then when after that, you might go to something like a prep or a kindergarten or something like that, and then you will start in the big school. So
Hmm. Yeah, I, I don't know. Both my parents were in education, like basically their entire lives, either as a administrator, as a teacher, or some always in that realm. And a lot of my relatives are too. We're a family of educators, I guess. And so we have a lot of these conversations, and I've overheard these conversations even as a child growing up. There is so much pressure in kindergarten now, the standards and what they want to accomplish. And so now people are putting 3 and 4 year olds in pre K. Um, I don't know how you feel about it, Ping, but I believe in learning a lot through play, like maybe more of like a Montessori philosophy. Well, Montessori is more like this is what you're interested in. So, like, if you're really interested in this, then this is how we're going to teach you math through cooking, or you know what I mean. That's like one of the philosophies. We're going to, and I love that philosophy because learning should be fun. And I am a lifelong learner and researcher, and I credit my mom with that. She fostered it. Um, and I mean, were there times where I didn't like school? Yeah, but it was mostly because of the BS that went along with it. It wasn't because I hated learning. Um, but little kids should be playing at 5 years old, in my opinion. And you can go through the basics, but these people that are like, my kid knows every Crayola color and then 2,000 crayon box, and he's only 18 months old and he can count to 400 in Cantonese and he can conjugate 97 Latin verbs. And why?
I think
Why?
it takes away from their childhood when you hammer them so young with education. Not that education's bad, education's a good thing, but I think there's ways to do it, especially when they're in their formative years, where it benefits both the child and the relationship with the parents better. Where, because a lot of those kids who get those lifestyles where it's like, you go to school every day and then you have 200 different activities after school. Like, all
Mm-hmm.
those kids become very pent up in their later years because of the pressure. And I think sometimes we take a very square peg, round hole approach to education. Especially in the younger years. We could maybe make it more customizable. Like Amy, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a some sort of behavior based or psychologically based test where you could see whether the child was ready to start in the big school or not. And maybe they, if they don't pass that test, they stay back for a year rather than doing it on age. Do you know what I mean? Because like it would show they
Yeah.
are ready.
They used to, and I think they do something along those lines, but I don't think it's very across the board fair, or it tells you a whole lot. Um, I know the teacher's watching to see if you know your colors, your shapes.
Can you use a bathroom?
Yeah, well, yeah. The way you hold a pencil, maybe, like do you act when prompted, like those kind of things.
One day
But
we'll do a show on pencils because like I was one of the kids, left-handed kids who got smacked over the hand and told to your right hand is evil and you can't use it. And now I'm ambidextrous later in life. I can use both for
oh
different
wow,
things. So one day we're getting off topic, but one day we'll do a show on that. But
yes.
we'll go back to these two people.
I just saw PB&J said, imagine having a twin and one goes on to the next grade while the other is held back. Sad. So my stepchildren are like what a lot of people call Irish twins because they were born so close together. And the younger one was held back in first grade. So they would have been like first and second grade. Now they have a grade in between them.
My
Uh,
sister is the same. Me and my sister are only 10 months apart. And I
yes.
can tell you that my sister, because she, not just because she's a girl, but girls mature a little faster, my sister was better than me at the same age at a lot of things. And
Hmm.
then I overtook her later in life, but
Right.
she was much faster progressing through like 5 to 10 than I
Yep.
was at 5 to 10.
Yep. It's the rate of maturity, and it's biological. A lot of it. It's not. It's not even social or socioeconomic. It's just biologically you are different, and little girls tend to mature a little bit faster. So yeah, let's see. Emily says, I'm just glad I'm grown and done with school. Doesn't seem as fun as the 80s and 90s. Nope.
Nope. I actually not jealous of the kids today. I think it must be so hard with all the technology and monitoring and things like that. It'd be even harder than what we went through. At least when we went through school in the 90s and 80s, and before that, if you're a little older, we had some sort of like privacy. We had privacy, like our own space, if that makes sense, where we could make mistakes and it wasn't filmed and put on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting you say that because I was just thinking about this, and I talked to my mom a lot about this. There's, and again, remember I come from a family of educators, so I'm not one myself, but I come from a family of. There are a lot of teachers on TikTok, and some of them are sharing ideas for the classroom. Some are talking about, um, how much they hate teaching and why they're leaving. Um, you know, do what you want. Probably not the best to talk about your work on TikTok, but that's your call. The only thing there's as far as the teachers on TikTok, the only thing I get really annoyed with, because there's some really good teachers, there's some brilliant teachers, but are the ones that come on there and say, and they're youngish, not all of them, but a majority of them are just maybe because of the app or whatever. They're youngish and they're talking about how they don't make any money and they don't get paid enough or whatever. And in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking, okay,
That's
did
life,
you
yo.
did you not realize this when you were choosing your major? Did it come as a shocker to you? Because it's why I didn't go into it. I'm gonna
Yeah,
be
if you take the arts and you're, disappointed that you can't find a 200K year a job, like, I mean, what do you want?
right, right, and I'm not a materialistic person, but I certainly, I mean, if I didn't have, when I was choosing what I wanted to do and what kind of classes I wanted to take and all of that, if I didn't have plans or I wasn't worried about having to be able to earn a living one day, like, yeah, I would have taken French history and linguistics and all kind. Well, linguistics could be very lucrative, but I would have studied a plethora of other things other than what I studied. And so I get super annoyed at they're like, I can't live on this salary and I can't even afford my Starbucks. And I'm like, okay, well, Starbucks is not like, a
It's
necessity.
your first job out of college too. Like,
I
you
just,
will get more money. You got to build a
yeah,
repertoire for yourself and like a CV, and get things behind you. And it's all about networking. And so don't be disappointed if the first job out of college is not your dream gig. Like,
no,
you'll get there. You'll get there.
yeah. But then the other thing that, and I kind of like, I mean, I get a little like about it, but the other teachers that annoy me on the app are this. They go on and they complain about their students. And I have to tell you, like, that's fine. Like, sit with your girlfriends and role play and make up little skits and talk about how much you hate that little effer or his mom stinks or like whatever it is you're saying. But I have to tell you, if I ever find one of my children's teachers on TikTok talking about their students, it's done. Like that
Yeah,
is
I think when you're
wildly inappropriate.
identifiable, it's worse. Like, because that kid, what if that kid found it and use some sort of little detail that makes them identifiable in their story.
Yeah.
I think you have a responsibility as a teacher, not to say you can't have a private life, but
Oh
you still have a responsibility to protect your students even when you're offline.
my God.
And I think
Right.
that's where TikTok sometimes blurs the line between
Right.
professionalism and off time.
Most definitely, because I've seen the comparison made like, well, the lady that works in the customer service department, she gets on here, makes TikToks. Well, yeah, maybe she does. And that's probably not a good look for the company. Like making fun of customers all day and like, wearing your uniform while you're doing it. But usually that customer is not a child either. And you're not in a position of authority. Um, Teachers are so, at least for me, they could be you can make such an impact on your life. I was so lucky. I had so many amazing teachers. Um, I have one that I had in high school that I have a personal friendship with now, and I treasure it. She changed my life in a lot of ways, or like opened some worlds to me that I really appreciate, and I see life in a different way because of her, and um, just so grateful for her. And I had one or two that were nasty little T words. And they were. And whether it was like they didn't like me because of who my mom was, or which happened sometimes, my mom was chairman of the school board, and
She was well
na-
known, your mom.
yeah, national school. You can't go into a school in the Central Florida area, like, well, you can, but if you spent a day, my mom's name or a plaque of her is going to be in the entryway of a lot of the schools. Like, people still, my friends take their kids to school and they're like, oh, I remember like going to parties at your house, and now I'm taking my kids to school and your mom's hanging on the wall in their school. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of, it's kind of neat. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I was picked on simply for that, and it felt awful. It did. And it felt like a bullying situation. Um,
Yeah.
and it was
Aimee, I was going to ask you if about TikTok
yeah.
before we just got too far away for a second. For people at home that don't realize, there was no, it wasn't TikTok as such, it was Twitter. There was a woman who um, got a invitation to be an intern at NASA, and she was so excited, and she went on her Twitter and she was like, "Oh yeah, F yeah," and blah blah blah. And someone, I got an intern at at NASA and stuff, and then a guy was in her comments and was like, "Oh, careful with the language. I'm sure NASA wouldn't be appreciative of like, you speaking that way. It's such a big organization." And she's like, "Yeah, suck my D and stuff." Turned out that guy was like one of the head guys at NASA, and he was just checking up on like the new enrollments at NASA, and she
But
lost her enrollment and then lost her like job at NASA, and she's never gone back to work there again.
oh my
They
god,
just will not let her back after that whole episode.
yeah, you have to be careful. PB and J says I was homesick once in fourth grade, and when I returned, my friends weren't talking to me. It was because the teacher had an open conversation about PB and J, and it wasn't a nice one. That's
Ah,
that's
that's
terrible.
not good.
I'm sorry that happened, and not to be like Dr. Phil and touchy feely, but those kind of wounds, like they, at least for me, like sometimes when I think back about things like that, like it still like hurts to like remember them. Uh,
100%. I'll tell PB&J if it makes you feel any better. I had a teacher who pulled an entire class discussion and had a discussion with about why Ping was a bad person, and went around the entire class while I was sitting there crying, saying, "What don't you like about Ping? And please
oh,
make it known."
do you have this person's name? I mean, don't sit here.
Probably not. Not like, I mean, it was year 5, like
I'm gonna
30
hold
years
right
ago.
my phone. That's terrible. That's terrible. I'm so sorry. The Nassau thing. So, do you ever get like random texts on your phone from like people you don't know, and you're just like it's a wrong number or something like that?
I had a weird one the other night, actually. Let me get my phone. I'll tell you. Hold
Okay.
on. Let me
All right.
pull
Well,
up
you're
this text
getting
message.
Well, you're getting your phone. I'll tell you this. So I get a lot of like butt dials or like rant pocket dials
Putt dials.
because of my name, because it's like AI, and so I'm usually like the first person in most people's phone. And so like if they have their phone list up, it's going to call me and leave me an 8-minute voicemail. Um, but I get like random texts every once in a while, and those things kind of go on trends. It's like maybe there's a data breach and people's phone numbers get or whatever. So this was like 7 years ago. Um, I had put out a couple resumes for a job, looking for a particular job, and I get this text at like 10:45 at night. Okay, and it just says hello. That's it. Just hello. And I was feeling silly. We were trying to finish up a movie so we could go to bed. My husband is never up that late. So I took a picture of my dog and I said, "Yo, what's up, my dog?" And I spelled it DAWG because I thought it was being funny. And then I got like a 3-paragraph thing saying, "This is Elliot from Kickstarter. I'm touching base with you about the resume that you submitted."
Oh no. That's really unprofessional contact though at the same time, I would think. Like he's just saying hey like in the middle of nowhere with no introduction.
Nothing. And a text message. And it turned out to be a funny thing. He was like, after I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I had no idea," like, because it was a blind submission, and and he was like, "No, I definitely laughed on my end." He's like, "I'm out in California, so wasn't thinking about the time. We're 3 hours behind you, blah, blah, blah." So it ended up being okay, but I've really never, like, I used to like to really like some mad duckery type of stuff when I got those kind of calls, but I'll never do it again because I think
Well, I've never heard of you working at Kickstarter, so I guess you didn't get the job.
well, it wasn't conducive to my lifestyle. Let's put
It
it.
wasn't conducive to just stuff.
It just wasn't. So,
Aimee, I'll do my two things just quickly.
okay.
The text message I got, and this was like 9 o'clock at night, and it said, "Hello, Aileen. Sorry for calling you late. May I ask if I can borrow your coffee press? I am Alex, by the way." Who the fuck's Eileen and who's Alex?
I'm Alex, by the way.
Yeah, it's
Like
weird
this,
because my phone rang from this
really?
number, and when they
So
hung up, it triggered my international dialing too.
that's
It
weird.
was weird because it's a local. It comes up as a local mobile, not overseas. It was really bizarre.
So the only way that could work is if somebody told Alex told somebody like, "Hey, I need a coffee press." And somebody said to Alex, "Hey, my friend Eileen has it. Here's her number." And so then he texts Eileen like, "Hey, I need a coffee press. I'm Alex, by the way." That's weird. That's
Is
very
copy
weird.
press like innuendo for like a booty call?
I was just about to say, let's look up. Let's see.
And while we're doing that, Petunia, I will tell you. You want another weird ping teacher story? When I
Yes.
was in primary school, which is like your kind of, I think, like middle school, um, one of our teachers was an exchange teacher from Iowa in the United States. She came and taught at my school for 3 years, and I had her for 2 of her 3 years there. The thing is, she ended up developing a really good friendship with my parents, and she ended up hanging out with us like all the time while she was in Australia. So I'd have my teacher at my home on my weekends, like all the time. And then when we went to America, we ended up staying with her for like 4 weeks in Iowa.
Oh no! But you liked her, right?
She was a lovely woman. It's still awkward when your teacher's at
It
your
was too much. It was
home.
like boundaries.
Yeah, she's a lovely
Yeah,
lady though.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen in a minute because we're gonna do this together. Let's see here. All right, we're going to take down Devin. Things are
Actually, Aimee, I've been trying to research her lately because I kind of just wanted to see what she was up to and like maybe just drop her a line and be like, hey, it's been like 20 years, but are you still okay? But she was an older woman back in the 90s. Like, I think she was
Yeah.
in her 50s or 60s. So
Hmm.
I'm not sure she's alive anymore. I've been trying to research her and I can't find any details about her in her home state or anything. So I don't know if she's still with us anymore.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when we were talking earlier. Like, there's a couple of my teachers that are older that I know that have passed now. They, even if they were 50, when they were teaching me, that was 30 years ago.
Not that 80-year-olds like are
No,
always going to die, but just it is an older age, and
yeah,
sometimes people, are not with us anymore.
right. Okay, so I'm gonna throw, just for fun, coffee press. That's what he asked for, right?
Right, a copy press.
Into Urban Dictionary. Let's see what comes up. Let's see. Hey, why didn't that work? You know what? I don't know why. Let's just do this. I'm not playing around. Copy press slang. I
Get your Java ready. No.
don't know. I bet there's a dirty one. What is the slang term for coffee? You already know these. Cup of lightning. What? Worm dirt. Nobody talks like that. This is
It's
stupid.
an Australian thing.
Is it really?
Yeah, copper lightning, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's not stupid. I was about to say it was written by somebody that like.
A lot of Australian language is stupid.
No, well, it is here too. I mean, you got people talking about scissor and stuff. Of course, that was like 8 years ago, but still, they're just like, let's perpetuate Americans being ignorant. Okay, we'll do it on the daily. What is Berserker saying? I had a teacher that my brothers and father had as well. He was old as the hills. Yeah, I didn't have that. Thank God, because my sister and I were raised nowhere near family.
I
But
think the ones that are worse, Amy, is where, say, you went to a school and then you grew up and then you had kids and then you go to enroll your kids in the same local school and someone you went to school with is now like the person, like a teacher there or something.
yeah, yeah. Or my poor sister, who was that child that started school probably a little too early because of her birth date, and she struggled for a while. She's brilliant now. It was just a maturity thing with her in the beginning. And my poor sister sometimes would get my teachers, and they just have to hear about, like, I didn't have these problems with your sister. And when your sister was in my class, no wonder my sister hated me at times. She was unfairly compared, and she was her own person. Um, what was I going to do? I pulled like a couple different articles, and
Or do you want to do tidal wave? I know a couple people were waiting on that story.
let's do it. All right,
You're right. You go first and tell your side of it, and then I'll
Okay.
explain why it happened.
Okay. All right. So, I I just got done telling you guys that. Um, hold on. I guess I gotta type something real quick. I can't type and talk at the same time tonight, apparently. Um, my mom is a pretty amazing mom. I'm extremely lucky and grateful, and I know it. And I try to convey that to her, when I can, and it's not like weird and awkward. But my parents were also conservative, and not conservative like I was running around in Laura Ingalls Wilder dresses. But some of the things that were okay for other kids to do was not okay for my sister and I. And my parents just didn't care if it was, whatever. And I won't go on long about this, but you got to understand this for me to tell the story. One of those things is that, like for instance, I always had a curfew that was much earlier than everybody else's my age. And I also, up until I was probably in high school, had a bedtime. Um, and I'm not talking about like um, a window of time where you need to go to bed so we can all get up in the morning. It was like 8:30. So when shows like Miami Vice were popular and things of that nature, like I didn't participate in any of that because um, there was no DVRs or anything like that. So if you missed it, you missed it. And
Appointment TV is what they called it.
yeah, it was appointment TV. Yeah. And so I used to get super annoyed in high school because my curfew was so early. By the time my friends picked me up and pulled out of the driveway, we could basically drive around the block and come back, you know? And my mom used to just say, like, nothing good happens after this time of night, or you don't need to be out. You're this age, you don't need to be out. And quite honestly, like at the time, I found it terribly annoying, but I 100% agree with her. Also, because we live, near the beach, there were very strict rules about going to the beach. And this is why. Because in the 80s and 90s, the roads out to the beach were 2 lanes, no median. So if you passed, you were driving in a lane that would have uh, traffic coming in the opposite direction. Like you needed to get over past the car, get over, or you're going to get killed. And this was both to Smyrna Beach, Daytona Beach, and Cocoa Beach. They were all the roads were like that. 46, 520. They hadn't been widened. They were not safe. And everybody knew multiple people, not just one or two. Every 6 months, somebody was dying on that road. And so it was just like a thing. So like we could drive out there every once in a while, and my mom had to be aware that we were going, but it was definitely a no at night. Never at night because of that road situation. So it's 1992. I'm not in high school anymore. I'm in college. I have a boyfriend that my parents like, and he's a really good guy. And it's July 4th, and I'm still not allowed to go out to the beach at night. It's a no. If you drive out during the day and you stay overnight or something, that's completely different. But that's not what we did. Dave and I decided that we wanted to go out to this beach bar in Daytona Beach. And so we did. And I was 20, you know? So we drive out there. And what's important also to know is that in Daytona, you park on the beach. They don't protect the dunes as much. So everybody parks on the beach. And then we walked up to this like reggae bar thing and we were hanging out. And the next thing we knew, the singer said, if you have a car out on the beach right now, it is probably, 40 feet in the water or something. We had heard like wave activities, but it's dark. There's lights from the bars, but there's not lights on the beach. And so we kind of sat there non-reactive for a minute, and then people started running, and then we heard people screaming. And when we walked out on the beach, I'm telling you, my car, because we had taken my car, was floating in the ocean. It had to be pushed back in, and it was kind of like this mom mentality, like people were just trying to push cars in, that were like floating. So mine was floating in like 2 or 3 feet of water. And the not the moral, but the point of my story before Ping tells you this is that when we got my car back up, on the sand and away from the tide and all that stuff, it had 2 flat tires because it had knocked so many cars, and of course AAA is not going to be an option. So I went to a payphone, no cell phones, and called my mom and told her there was a tidal wave and that my car was damaged and I was going to be late for my curfew because I'm 20 and the rule is in my mom's house, if you live here, if you stay here, you have a curfew. And she was like, yeah, right, and hung up on me. And again, rightfully so in a way, because if there's something weird that's going to happen, I've had a lot of really strange experiences in my life. My sister and I were put on a plane when we were like 6 and 8 years old to go, like without our parents, to go fly to my grandparents' house. And the plane caught on fire and did an emergency landing. Like we got to do the slide and everything. Like I've been through a lot of stuff. I don't know why. It's a joke in my family about why I attract it, but one of the few times I've been out at Daytona at night, I'm there when this tidal wave comes in. So yeah, we were stranded for the night. It was pretty bad, and my mom will tell you that after she hung up the phone, they turned on the news and saw it, and then saw it in the paper the next morning, and I wasn't home, and she felt terrible. And so now it's kind of like our little joke. It's like Amy's little tidal wave story. But anyway, you go ahead and tell it.
So most people would think that something like a tidal wave would be, generated from like a tsunami, like an earthquake or underground vent explosion or something like that. But this particular one was formed by a very rare set of circumstances. It was actually a squall line which formed off the coast, and it propagated in such a way that it amplified as it reached the coast and created a tidal wave underneath it from the pressure drawing closer to the coast. And as you get to the coast, the sea bottom gets thinner, like closer to the surface. So that
Mm-hmm.
wave gets bigger and bigger. And it basically, the force behind the squall line forced this massive wave onto shore. And as soon as it got onto land, it dissipated and it was gone. That's why everyone's like, wait, what happened? There was no shaking or there was
Mm-hmm.
no earthquake or anything. So yeah, it was just a squall line.
It was really weird. And the it was funny because one night Ping and I are talking, and it organically came up in conversation. I said something about a tidal wave, and he was like, "Wait, what?" And because I know Ping, or I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I know him inside and out. It's not like that. But because I know Ping, I knew he was already Googling it. Like bullshit. Not like he was calling me out, but he's like, yeah, okay. Um, and he found the article. My mom woke up. I mean, it made the Washington Post the next day. There were people that were actually walking on the beach when this happened and saw the wall of water, and just had to run. It was like, I think this article says it was about 18 feet high. When I tell you, it was the craziest thing to see all these cars just floating everywhere and people like freaking out. And it's black. I mean, it's not pitch black like it would be at some beaches, but it was pretty black. It was hard, like when you were out in the water. Um, One of the things I think about now that I'm older is that when we were in the water, like maybe up to our shins or our knees, trying to push these cars in, and you're dealing with a tide and everything else. We are so lucky that there were like a say adults. There were like older people that were like, watch out, because they were getting people like a car would swing around and you could get hit by a car in the water. Does that make sense? Like you could get
Yeah.
hit by a car in the water. So we were like literally like sticking our legs out and kicking another car away from us while we're trying to get one in, and then they're back out there trying to push the next one in. It's the same thing. It was a really crazy night, but I do remember calling my mom. I needed my mom, and she was like, "Yeah, right.
Peace off. Don't call home.
Yeah, like you're in trouble because you are 20 and you are grounded from being late to your curfew." Yeah. And then she had no way to get in touch with me. And I wasn't going to call her back, because I was like, shit, I'm in trouble, you know? Um, I don't believe there were any fatalities. No, Emily. Um,
Just
yeah.
car fatalities.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, I was lucky mine was drivable. In fact, I think about it now, and that was 1992. Had that happened today, they probably would have totaled out any car that was in that situation because now we know
Like the
about,
electronics and that as well, and the rust.
well, and mold. It's mold.
Yeah,
Um,
that too.
yeah, we just had somebody in our neighborhood leave their car window open the other day, and they were like, "I need a shop vac," and I said, we have a shop vac, but like, you need to call your insurance company because I got out of my car during a hurricane like 8 years ago, just opening the car and running in the house. Got so much water in my car, they totaled it out. It was
Yeah, because you guys are so humid down there.
yeah. He was like, we will never be able to get that car dry enough where it will not be a constant source of mold. So that's why they totaled my car out, and it was sad. I remember thinking like, this car has like 12,000 miles on it. It has nothing on it. Like it's perfect. And he was like, don't take anything out of it. And I'm like, I'm taking my shoes out of it. My shoes are coming with me. Unless you're gonna pay me for my shoes too. Nope. Yeah, so that is the Tidal wife story, and that is kind of crazy.
It's very
Um,
interesting because I don't think, it wasn't a cause of something like a king tide or, a gas vent under, which there is a few around Florida.
yeah,
And it wasn't a landslip or something like that, an earthquake. The fact that it was caused by this squall line is really unique.
yeah, yeah, that is crazy. I don't, I'm not sure I completely understand it. Um,
Oh, so a squall line is like a line of storms that form over
right?
water, and they tend to travel really fast because they're gusting out across the water. So they pick up speed as they go across like the flat surface of the water. So as it's moving really quickly, it's pushing downwards onto the water, and it's creating like that force from the pressure, and it's pushing like a wave across as it goes across the water. So it's downward motion onto the water, creating that lift, like the surge of the wave. So yeah, and as it comes closer to shore, as you lose sea bottom, because the sea bottom gets more shallow as you get closer to
Mhm.
the coastline, that wave increases. It gets
Okay.
taller.
Okay. That makes sense. That actually does make sense. I had to think, I think I deal in like analogies. So if I put water into a bathtub and I start pouring really heavy water down on this end and I push forward, at some point when the tub gets shallow, that water is going to build up really high.
Right, exactly. Very similar. Yes.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. It's interesting. I did not know that. Um I got one other thing for you guys. Actually, I got a ton of stuff, but like I'm looking at the time and everything else. Um, so this is out of People magazine. I saw this today. A Missouri mother, drained a pond to find the remains of her son, who was murdered in 2015. Connie Goodwin rented a sump pump last weekend to cover the last of her son's remains and give him proper burial. So here's the story. Connie has waited 7 years to properly lay her son to rest after the 32-year-old man was murdered in 2015. After she rented a sump pump to drain a Missouri pond with her husband and grandson, thus uncovering the last of his remains, she could finally do just that. Edward Goodwin went missing from Poplar Bluff, Missouri in the summer of 2015, leaving behind his son Gage, 15 at the time, and loving parents Connie and Ed Goodwin. For 2 years, Connie searched high and low for her son, holding rallies and putting up billboards urging authorities to find him. In 2017, the Butler County Sheriff's Department found partial remains of Edward in a small lake in Poplar Bluff after they drained most of the water during the investigation. The Sheriff's Department found 40% of Edward's remains, which was enough to use as evidence against two men suspected of killing him, but Connie felt she didn't have the closure until she found the rest of her son. They promised they were going to go back. Even in the newspaper, they said they were going to go back, but they never did, Connie tells People. I called them about every day, every other day to find out when they were going to do it. Butler County Sheriff Mark Dobbs tells People that authorities returned to the location in the fall of 2021, but didn't have the equipment to drain the rest of the muddy water. Uh, says Connie, I told them months ago that if they don't do it, I told them that one of these days I'm going to do it myself. And she did. On Saturday morning, Connie, Ed, and Gage, now 22, all arrived at the body of water, which after the initial draining is now a pond and not a lake. At 8:30 a.m., they began pumping out the water with a rented sump pump. 2 hours later, they saw bones. We saw two bones sticking up, so we kept pumping, and then the next thing you know, we started seeing the concrete blocks and then the barbed wire and more bones, Connie says, referencing the materials used to sink Edward's body to the bottom of the water. She then called the Butler County coroner, Jim Akers, who came out to the scene. Once the remaining water was out of the pond, Akers, who was knee-deep in the mud, began digging the skeletal remains out by hand. The mud was 2 to 3 feet deep, very thick, and infested with wildlife, Akers tells People, who adds that dental records have confirmed that these remains are Edward's. In 2017, the same year that partial remains of Edward were found by the sheriff's department, two men were arrested for his murder, Ricky Hurt and Eldred Smith. Hurt and Smith both pleaded guilty in 2021 and are now imprisoned for the murder of their one-time friend. Connie says Edward's son Gage, who was being raised by his single father before his death, has been deeply impacted over the years by his father's murder. She also says when she looks at Gage, she sees Edward, calling him a spitting image of his daddy. Edward's family still remembers him for all his great qualities. They are now relieved they could finally give him a proper resting place. He was a loving father, he was a loving son, and he'd do anything for anyone, Connie says. He loved his kids and his nieces and nephews, and he loved the whole family, and they loved him. And I just wanted to share that with you because I think it's absolutely insane that a family would have to rent a sump pump to find their loved one's remains.
It's disgusting.
It is. And this is why we need to remember, I'm not going to get into it, but all this static stuff about AWP and Waters Rescue Group and these other rescue groups and what some people say and what some people it doesn't.
They do amazing work. You look
Yeah.
at cases like this, and
Yeah.
this mum's had to wait so many years. AWP come out, and these other groups, as Chaos Divers and all those other guys, they come out of their own money to give families like this closure, so they don't have to wait around all these years.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Sorry, not closure. There is no closure. I know that. It's just, they give them answers.
well, can you imagine being a mother and looking out at a lake that you live nearby and knowing that part of your son is in there?
I don't understand how they were just okay with, like, I don't mean to, I'm laughing
Forty
because it's
percent.
awkward. Yeah, they're like, oh, we have his legs up to his hip. Oh, that's good enough. Like,
Right. When
that's not good enough.
yeah, he wouldn't be able to survive without, his shoulders. So we
It's
have to
not good enough. I don't understand where, like, it's like they only cared about the prosecution of the case. They didn't actually care about the person.
yeah, and this is where recovery groups are just um we need them. We need to be respectful of them. We need to, it's just no mom and dad. I want you, like, I'm going to be kind of grotesque here. Just a weekend. Let's just put ourselves in this position and hope to God that we never really are. So we wake up on a Saturday morning and we go down to Home Depot or Lowe's or True Value Hardware or the tax store, whatever it is, or Walmart. And we're like, hey, we're today's mission. We're going to get a sump pump, and then we're going to go down to this lake. We are literally going to pump a lake ourselves so that we can recover a family member's body. Think about what that is.
It's a psychological mess. That's what it is.
It is, and it should never happen.
No, I would be asking for a investigation into who wrote off the okay to just leave that in that state for 7 years. That's just not okay.
No, it's not okay. It's
But
not. And
Aimee, do you think you are seeing stuff like this all over the country? Maybe not as like as you know not as like full on as this case, but in other cases, like where AWP or these diving groups have gone out and found the bodies and the cars and things like that, where the police have gone, oh, we checked there, oh, we've been there, we did stuff, like, we checked like 4 times 20 years ago. Like, I think you're kind of seeing that, like, oh, we ticked our box, we did what we could. Yet these guys come out, they learn about their craft and then they go out there. And look, I know not everyone is a not radar, sonar, specialist or whatever, but these skills can be taught.
Well, yes, and a little like I gave you the People magazine version. You can read other versions of this story, and you can read more details if you'd like, and about the original murder and everything else. But this was already. I'll tell you this. This was already more traumatic than the. Can you believe I'm saying this? The average murder, because he was murdered by his friends.
By his
Okay.
buddies, yeah, and they really kind of did him in a very gruesome way, like with that barbed wire and the concrete blocks,
Well,
and
that's what I was about to say. So, um, just dragging a magnet in this lake, the amount of barbed wire that there was
it would have hit on it for
would
sure.
hit on it. Yeah, and nobody should have to stand there when they use their own sump pump and then call a coroner to watch them pull your baby out of the mud, or your dad, because his son was a teenager when this happened. Um, and he didn't have a mother in his life, so that was his parent.
I
So
say good on the family for doing all you can to bring your loved one home, and I think we should, fund the groups that can do the work if the police are not going to do it.
I agree, and cut people some slack. I understand that these things can be expensive,
Oh
and
yeah, and that police have like 4,000 families who want help just in that one county. I get it, but if you knew the rest of the body was there, that's not okay.
no, it's not. No, you don't just say, well, we got part of it, so we're good to go. Oh, by the way, the lake opens for swimming next week. Go have fun.
It's
It's
not
weird.
cool.
No, it's not. Do you want to do something fun and then call it a night?
All right, let's do something fun.
All right, so I'll give you a choice. Let's see. I have something called Tip Tales, the creepy trend female server space. We've kind of talked about this a little bit. Um, 16 hysterical married people who left their spouses with questions that may never be answered. Or we can go Beyond Meat Boss arrested after trying to cannibalize man's nose.
Well, at least it's not the keys in the bowl game that we played last time, but this
I,
is better.
I know. I was just
I don't
thinking
know.
about the pineapple thing today.
Well, which one do you like, or which one do the chat like?
What do you guys want to hear about? Want to hear Tip Tales, the creepy trend female server space? Or would you like to hear 16 hysterical married people who left their spouses with questions? Or Beyond Meat boss arrested after trying to cannibalize man's nose? And Beyond Meat is like the meat substitute that tastes like
This isn't
ground
the one
beef.
they make the burgers out of, like for Burger
Yeah,
King.
and sausage, and yeah, and I eat it. It's good. It's really good. My kids prefer it over
Do you have
regular.
the one that's supposed to be like it looks like real chicken, but it's not real chicken?
Yes.
We have that here too. It kind of looks like chicken, but it's not really chicken.
Yeah. Or you can also, I mean, you can buy the actual fruit in the grocery store, but it's a lot to handle.
Oh,
But you can
jackfruit.
buy, yeah, like jackfruit, but it's only, in my opinion, jackfruit is only good in a really like smoky, almost spicy barbecue sauce. Otherwise, it tastes like garbage to
Yeah,
me.
I tried one in a curry. I got one for free. Like they were doing a trial thing through one of our supermarkets, and they're like, "Hey, get one of these for free and give it a go." And I tried it, and I was like, "It tastes like fruit curry."
It has a very musky kind of smell, and that the olfactory is so connected to your palate that it has like a I don't know. It's like a sweet, putrid kind of taste, and you need like that opposing. You need that like tanginess and that spice and that heat and that smokiness to get rid of it. I've never. I mean, I'm fairly adventurous, and I've had it some other ways and had to um, spit it out. Like I was not going. Like
It's
it
not a
was
great substitute for chicken.
no, and that's the other thing about it too, because it's kind of slimy, and I don't really want to eat slimy chicken, so I don't want to eat something slimy that's supposed to be chicken. You
Do
know?
you guys have corn over there? The brand corn?
No, but I know the song. Corn.
No, not that one, but there's a brand over here called Corn, and they make like I think it's made out of mushrooms or something, but it looks like ground beef, and it tastes pretty good.
Ooh. Oh no, I haven't tried that. Now I do eat like I do eat like a mushroom based like pasta. You buy it like wet. You again, it stinks. So you really, really, really have to wash it um to get that smell and residue for the packaging, the liquid it's packaged in. But it's pretty good.
No, not Knorr. That brand is really well known. Um, like they make a lot of powders and stock powders and things. I know that brand. This brand is like corn, like the yeah QUORN.
Oh,
Um, and it looks like ground beef, and you buy it frozen or fresh, and it literally looks like fried up ground beef.
that's interesting. Okay, I'm pulling up. I think we decided we're gonna do 16 married people.
Yes, I think that's one they want.
Okay, so let me go ahead and share it. This is good too because it's I pulled it from BuzzFeed, so it's nice and whoops. Wait, it wants me to give you the link and email it to everybody in the chat, and that's not happening. Hold on. Do this. Do this. All right, here we go. Scroll down. Okay. 16 married people whose spouses must go what in the world at least 10 times a day. I kind of feel like Chris should be on this list. Number one, this wife who for some reason tried to shred a metal credit card and this happened. So I guess she ruined their paper shredder. That one. This husband who chews gum and then puts it back in the
Oh my
packet.
God, no, no, no.
What? What? Oh God, I haven't looked at this. So this wife who grew something very what's my wife growing? Looks like a chair leg and something else. Actually, it kind of looks like my sister has these. So my sister bought this house, and this doctor, like PhD of botany, used to own the property, and like years and years and years and years and years, like 50 years ago, planted all these crazy plants. Like some of them she kept, but some of them she had to get removed because they had like 9-inch spikes on them and stuff. And one of the things he planted was a voodoo plant. Have you heard of those?
No, I've not heard of those.
So it looks kind of like this a little bit, but it has like leaves that come out around it. And then like once a year, this is so gross, the bottom part of this kind of plant has a tail that comes up somewhere else in the lawn that looks equally avatar sexual and stinks so bad. It smells like a dead body.
Oh, there's a plant like that in Indonesia that it only opens like every 10 years or something, and it smells like rotting bodies.
Yeah, it smells like dead flesh. Yeah, it's disgusting. Let's see. This husband who has a unique way of cutting pie. Well, that's annoying.
I have someone in the household that does that.
Oh my god, that is like that'll make your OCD go crazy.
Yeah, it does for me.
Oh my god. Do you have to like recut the pie and like
Yes, to make proper triangles.
yeah, and do you so what do you do with like the wonky pieces? Do you just like eat them and they're like
Get
they're
her
all,
to eat them.
oh you do? You're funny. I can hear the disdain in your voice.
It drives me crazy because it's like just cut it normally.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. This wife who tried to make some ice and somehow it ended up like this in the freezer. My wife went crazy looking for the ice tray she put in the freezer this morning. We definitely had a good laugh when we found out where it was. Now, how did it get stuck to the bottom of the
They had something under it, and she put it on top like a loaf of bread or something, and then
Oh,
it stuck to the glass.
oh, yep. So now it just looks like freezer teeth. You could do like a scary Halloween fridge that way. This husband who has an unusual idea of what the word done means. I tore my rotator cuffs, and my husband told me he'd finished the interior painting on our downstairs. He says he's done. Oh, so he wouldn't take off the jackets and stuff.
You might need a new husband.
Yeah. Your husband is DICK if you did that. Yeah. No. Okay. This partner whose mysterious package arrived like this and gave their partner a serious reason to pause. My partner ordered a book, the packaging was ripped, and this is all I saw. Sex and horses. Who could ask for more? Oh,
Now everyone's wondering what that product is.
I know. I am. I'm like, what is that? All I can see is Sunday. Huh. It's probably like for breeding, right?
Yeah, it
Breeding?
could be some sort of like horse like husbandry type thing.
Right. Okay. This wife who for some reason leaves all the jug and carton tops like this.
It's people who don't understand like righty tighty lefty loosey.
Yeah. Yeah. That drives me insane. I can't stand it. This wife who thought it was a good idea to put her spouse's nickname on their lunchbox. Oh. My wife who calls me poop made lunch for me this morning to take to work. My coworkers all thought I was gross.
At least no one's gonna eat your lunch at work.
Or if they do, like, they're really weird.
They're really messed up. It's like, George, did you eat that?
Yeah, exactly. Um, this wife who opens the cereal like a literal monster. I forgot to open
That's me. That's how I open boxes in fact.
Really? Like cereal?
Yeah, because I'm just like, I get frustrated, so I just stick my hand to like my finger through the thing and just rip it open.
Oh my god. My kids do that. And then they put it in the pantry like that. And then they're like, I can't eat the cereal because it's stale. And I'm like, well, no shit, it's stale. So you put it back. I can't. I can't. This wife who for some reason opened the bread like this and then left it.
Oh, that's so annoying.
Oh, so she clawed into it like a little raccoon. Well, maybe she couldn't get that little tag thing. But she should have put it in something else. These are mostly food based. This husband who unpacked the books like this. Yeah. Well, he put them in there and probably figured you wanted to style them. So I wouldn't be so judgy.
He probably figured that you were so anal about your books. He's like, I'll just leave them there and she can have a whole day rearranging them.
I'd be fine with it. Yeah. Because I'm like, no. They have a way they have to go. This wife who has a strange way of cutting butter. Oh my God.
I do that with cheese sometimes because you know how you can use a vegetable peeler to peel the cheese
Yes.
into slices? So sometimes my cheese block looks like that.
I think with cheese it wouldn't bother me so much, but the butter is weird. Why would
Yeah,
you?
because normally, especially with that kind of block butter, you see how it has the little lines on the package?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like, it tells you like that's that much and that's that much, and you use a knife and just cut through it. So why would you do it like that?
Yeah, I don't understand. We have this issue in our house, like not this graphic, but it was bad. So I just got one of those butter crocks and I leave it like on the like it's out like all the time. We don't refrigerate that. And then, so it's soft so people can go in and just like so we don't
What?
have this
In
massive.
Florida, you leave your butter out.
Yeah, you can. Europeans
You're
do it
gonna
all the time.
die from food
No,
poisoning?
no. And I'm not like seeing things or anything.
Can't be friends anymore, Amy.
It's good. It's always soft. It's like, but I mean, I
That's
don't.
what she said.
That's what she said. It's always soft. Oh my word. This wife who thought leaving the knives to dry like this was a good idea. Okay, I don't understand.
Someone in this household does that all the time, and it's bit both of us a couple of times.
I do that. I don't want
Did
any.
you hear that? She's like, what?
I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't want water spots, and they got to drain down. So yeah, I mean, most of the time I'll dry them, but that wouldn't like. That's just like.
You guys should have heard that. I said, oh, Mrs. Ping does that. And she's like, you're just clumsy because I cut myself on them.
You just fell on my weapon. This wife who put up these hilariously wrong birthday balloons noticed something odd about the birthday balloons my wife put up.
They're backwards.
They're backwards. Yeah. So, oh, poor thing. So her P's are upside down and the D is backwards. Okay. And this husband, whose spouse may never buy him a burrito again. Oh my god.
He's a freak. He's a freak. You don't eat it like that. Come on.
That's some Jeffrey Dahmer stuff. Who does that? Like, do you ever like all right, let's see if we're at the end. Yeah, we're at the end.
Isn't it true that girls were taught to eat bananas that way in like the good old days because like eating the other day was like, raunchy?
I've never heard that.
Oh really? I heard that before.
No, but that's funny, and I'm going to be googling it later.
How to eat bananas in a ladylike way?
Banana etiquette. Yeah. Are you like a willing, like, do you share food willingly? I guess is my question.
If I could ask Mrs. Ping right now, Mrs. Ping, do I share food willingly? Yeah, so no.
No. Is it because you want to keep it for yourself, or is it like hygiene? Like what?
I think it's more like just food issues from being like, from my previous life sort of thing.
Right. Okay. I don't, and I understand that. But
I just don't like people touching my food. I don't like people take like I don't mind sharing my food as long as like you don't take the first bite of it. I'm like I hate that. It drives me crazy if someone takes the first spoonful. Like I'll kill you.
I hear her giggling in the background.
Yeah, she's just laughing her ass off.
I don't mind sharing, like with Chris, I don't mind sharing food, but I'll tell you what I'm crazy about. Don't drink out of my drink. I don't want to drink out of the same glass as like anybody. In fact, when I was when I did communion when I was like 5 in the Catholic Church, like my poor mom was probably like, please don't freak out, because everybody has to drink out of a vessel, and I just pretended I didn't. So maybe secretly I'm not really didn't really receive my first communion, and nor am I confirmed, and because I just didn't. But I'm not drinking out of a glass that 100 other people drank out of. That's disgusting. And
like, please give me my own sippy cup.
Yeah. And like even when the kids were little, we'd be in the car and we would get in the car and we'd be like, does everybody have it? It's Florida. Does everybody have a drink or whatever? And they would chug theirs and then they'd want some of mine. Can I have a sip? And I'm like, and I felt like the meanest person in the world, but like, no, I'm really thirsty. I'm like, nope, sorry. It's like, no, because I really need a drink too. And I don't want to drink it after you drink out of it. I can't stand it. And I also can't stand if somebody takes my fork and like it's just dragging in their mouth, like ew. And then I'm gonna put that in.
Yeah, I don't like that either. So you don't like the whole backwash thing, because that's what I don't know if you had this thing in high school where if you shared a drink in high school, you had to like pour it from above. You couldn't drink it from the bottle. So if you shared a drink in high school, everyone had to like pour it into your mouth, not like actually put your lips to the end of it.
No, but I do remember people saying, "Oh, the last 2 drinks is all spit" or something like that. And I'm like, "Oh god." Oh, yeah. And my kid, my kids are like all kids. Like some nights they lie about brushing their teeth or whatever, and I'm like, Chris
kids
would
just
say,
gross in general.
I know, and Chris would say stuff like, "They're just little kids. Give them a drink." And then I'd say, "Take a little sip," and I'd get my drink back and I'd hold it up. And I'm like, is that chicken floating in my
It
drink?
looks like hard water. It's like, what is all this like speckly bits?
It's yours. You know, like I don't want it now. It's gross. I don't want people drinking out of my drink. And I don't want to be pressured to drink somebody else's drink. I hate that too. Oh, you should just taste
We
it. You
now
should.
know how to torture Aimee.
Oh, I know. Or the whole thing where they're like holding a fork and they're like, "Here you go," I'm like a Fiji pig. Like, oh, this way. Here,
Where's
just
the
take a bite.
aeroplane?
Just take a bite. And you're like, no, I don't want to put my mouth on the doppelganger thingy, the Flugelmeister that's been dragging across your tongue and your teeth. That's nasty.
Yeah,
No.
I'm not a big fan of that either.
Mm-mm. Yeah, not even a straw. No, I'm really weird about food is kind of different, and I will share. Like, I actually,
I'll cut a piece of something and give to someone. But
yeah,
like, yeah,
no, I'm very like I sometimes I even just like want to like we'll go out to eat and something I have is like so good or we haven't had it before, and I'm like, oh my god, you have to try this. Like, would you like some? That type of thing. No problem. I totally want to share in that aspect. Don't drink out of my drink. Don't. I will lose I literally will lose my shiz. Like I cannot deal with it. It is the grossest thing. And um, there are some people in my world that don't even ask. They just reach over and do it, and it's like, oh my god.
you would have a fork in your hand if you tried that with me.
You mean you'd stab them?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that's how I feel. I mean, it's really like it's a serious thing for me. Like I can't. It's one of the most. Um, you remember that show like Fear Factor, where somebody
Yeah,
was
so Aimee would just be like sharing food, Aimee edition.
right. Yeah, my Fear Factor would be like, oh, 6 people drank out of this Pepsi, and now here it's yours, and they'd be like, no, sorry, I just lost. Like, nope, not
No,
interested.
no food orgies for Aimee.
No, and then they'd be like, well, only 5, only 4. They could get down to 2. A person who's 40% of their body we found drink out of this drink. And you win if you, nope, not doing it.
Someone touched it with their pinky. No.
Nope. No. It's so gross. I can't, I literally cannot do it. Sometimes I think that's why in my house I drink strange things compared to everybody else. I think maybe I have done that purposely so that
they won't touch it.
Yeah, that nobody will ever want to drink. I'm like, oh, you like iced tea? Oh, it's soaked in turmeric and ginger. They're like, ew.
Well, I'm just of the mindset like I don't mind sharing my stuff, but it's like I dished out or dispensed this much because that's what I wanted, or I bought X, Y, and Z because that's what I wanted, and we bought you X, Y, and Z because that's what you wanted, and I'm like, they don't cross over. It's just how it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they sneak sips even when they're sick. Yeah, it's gross. Wait till you have, like, I'm telling you, I specifically remember this. We had gone to this barbecue place. We were on like a little road trip, like a day trip. The kids ate corn on the cob. They drank their drinks, and then Chris pressured me into sharing mine, and I had corn floating in mine after. And I was like, no, I'm not sharing with you. I've got food floaties in my drink now. It's gross. And it's supposed to be 0 calories, and now you put calories in my drink, and that pisses me off. So no. Right, you want to call it a night? With our
Yeah, we're done for tonight, I think. I hope everyone got some true crime tonight. I feel like we've been a little lax lately.
Well, we did the update. We talked about the sump pump. So we talked about
We did a tiny amount about other things.
Yeah. All right. It's True Crime Light. That's what we do. All right. So we'll be back, Tuesday, in case anytime something big happens over the weekend.
You're coming. Are you coming back tomorrow for your show?
I
don't want to put you on the spot. I just remember the end of your show.
No,
You said
I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to, and I will. I will do something tomorrow. It's funny when I did the I'm doing the recap episode by episode. And the first one got a really good response, a really good one. The second one, not so much. I mean,
Maybe everyone's watched it by now. They're like, I'm over it.
I think so. Maybe. So I have to honor my commitment to do the third, but I might not drag it out like that. And then cover something else. I know for myself, I've put, out of respect for the family, Kylie Rodney to bed. There are a lot of channels that are just talking about it endlessly.
Yeah, I think we're done with that for now.
Yeah, but I will tell you, I've been told that we're going to hear something in the next couple of days.
All right, well, call me when that happens.
Yeah, so that would be the only reason that would come up again. But there's too much in true crime to talk about to do that. And you want to be.
We got folders and files and pages worth of stuff we haven't got to yet.
Oh, I had the exception of like the funny things or whatever. I had like 17 different articles I pulled. I mean, I could have gone in any direction. By the way, I did pull up banana eating etiquette. How to eat a banana like a princess. Maybe we can watch that next week. It's by Sarah Jane Ho. I'm kind of scared.
What is it called? The ethical hoe.
Oh my gosh. Here's one. Queen's banana eating etiquette is way too much effort. It's by Sky News Australia.
Australia.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably like eat it with a knife and fork.
Probably, yeah. With your pinky up. So I don't find that very appealing. Get it? Anyway, so good night, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you for sure Tuesday, sometime between. It's always like 9:30, 9:45ish. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscription bell or the subscription button with the notification bell so you never miss a live stream. Tell us what you want to talk about, and have a great weekend. Be good, be nice, be kind, and try to figure out what a slang term for copy press is, because that is the mystery of the century. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
And now we wait.